Hello.
Hi, Jennylyn.
Hi, Jenny. Welcome. How are you? Welcome to our new studio.
How are you?
I'm doing good.
Well, tonight, Jonathan and I are doing our first video podcast recording. And we hope you're going to enjoy it. And we hope you like our new studio.
It's quite glamorous. Quite glamorous, I must say.
We worked very hard putting it together.
You did all the cement work and put up the columns and everything?
Painting the walls.
Okay. Yes. A lot of backbreaking labor. Absolutely.
Yep. Not easy work.
A lot nicer than our previous studio, by the way. A little hole in the wall. But I guess we're moving up in the world.
We're moving up. You took the words out of my mouth. So tonight, our topic is unconscious bias. So welcome to How Can You Say That?
To give a little background, this is our first audio and video production. We have recorded 20 previous podcasts, which are available on YouTube. They'll be available shortly on Spotify. So if you want to go back and listen to some of our previous episodes for some background, that would be great. But we're going to get into the topic. Normally what we do is we pick a topic and we just kind of roll with it for half hour or so and hope you enjoy. And we're here to entertain. Don't take anything we say too personally. This is for entertainment.
And all of the information that you hear, everything that comes out of our mouths are our opinions, and we are never intending to offend anybody except each other.
The network make you say that? Is that like a standard disclaimer? By the way, I almost didn't make it here this evening. This whole thing almost didn't happen.
So a quick introduction on unconscious bias,
Sure.
And then you can tell us about that.
What I was going to say is a lot more important, though, because it gives background. Let me just say this first, please. I just want to thank you for concluding our contract negotiations. It was a very, very difficult process. You were a very tough negotiator, but you managed to secure me back for 10 more episodes of the video podcast after I completed my contract of the 20 audio podcasts. Again, it was a hefty raise, but I felt I was entitled to it. You were more than inclined to share that raise with me, so I appreciate it, and I will do my best.
Well, just because we signed a contract doesn't mean you're here for 10 episodes. So you better pull your socks up.
All right.
Anyway, tonight's topic, like I said earlier, is unconscious bias. And I just wanted to give you the definition I found. It's supposed to be social stereotypes about certain groups of people that individuals form outside of their own conscious awareness. Everyone holds an unconscious belief about various social identity groups. And these biases stem from one's tendency to organize social worlds by cataloging. But there's also another definition for it, a shorter one, and it's known as implicit bias. And this is often defined as prejudice or unsupported judgment, like what you have with me, John.
Yes, of course. Yes. Take a shot at me on the opening of our first video podcast.
I'm just mentioning a fact.
It's okay. By the way, for those that don't know, Jenny will be taking digs at me throughout the entire podcast. That's pretty much how we roll. I actually have been questioning the whole title of the podcast, because unconscious bias, is anything really unconscious? I mean, before we say something, before we use our words, we are thinking. And although we may have certain preconceived notions about certain groups or certain genders or certain whatever we want to talk about, that was a learned action at some point, which means it's not necessarily unconscious. I think when we're expressing ourselves and our views and our perspective on things, I think it's actually quite conscious. No?
Well, I disagree, because I think that we learn some things as children, and we learn them at such a tender age of our life that we don't even realize it's sort of wired into the formative wiring.
But it's still learned.
I guess, yes. I guess you could say it's learned, but the fact is it's there. It's in your consciousness somewhere. And sometimes, and I could give you a good example of it. Growing up as a child, there were certain things my parents taught me because I was Christian. That if I did certain things, it was a sin. You know what I mean? And so later in my life, I didn't buy into it anymore. I didn't subscribe to that. But unconsciously, I still reacted to it.
Meaning it was kind of ingrained in you, but that didn't mean you were necessarily set to still believe it.
Yeah, I didn't believe it anymore because
Well, it is true. You may not believe it anymore, but those values that your parents ingrained in you from that in that regard religiously probably are correct.
Were you there when they told me?
No, but you chose to obviously just throw it out the window.
There are reasons why we do the things that we do, Jonathan. And I, as I evolved in my life, realized that those were erroneous teachings. And my parents believe them, and people today still believe them, but I don't.
Well, that doesn't mean they were erroneous because you chose not to believe them.
No, they were erroneous.
So all religious beliefs are erroneous?
I am saying some of them. I'm not saying all of them.
So okay. I mean, listen, that's your choice. By the way, I am completely blinded by that giant-sized diamond on your head. Every time the light hits it, it flashes in my eyes like a laser pointer. Who bought that rock?
Get used to it.
It's a massive stone. Who bought that? Was it like 18 carats or something?
Victimized is unconscious bias, Jonathan. So anyway,
well, you were unconsciously trying to blind me with the diamond. I understand your game. Go ahead.
So, unconscious bias. It's everywhere. It's in your workplace. It's in my workplace. And I believe it's in the supermarket. It's in here's a good story. I worked in an office once in California.
Right.
And everyone in the office and I were really great friends. But over the course of, I would say maybe 6 months, every morning they would send these disgusting black jokes in the company's internal
can't get away with that anymore.
Communication system.
What year was this?
And I would say it was probably maybe 2008.
Tail end of when you could still get away with stuff like that.
So anyway, every morning I would read these jokes and get offended, but didn't say anything. And it wasn't because I'm part black. But if you make these types of jokes, like continuously about any sector, to me, it would have offended me. And so after 6 weeks, one morning, everyone was in the office. And I walked out of my office to the main lobby and I go, guys, I have something to tell you.
Oh, God.
And they all
the announcement of your genetic makeup.
And I always had things to tell them. So they're like, okay, what does Jenny want to tell us today? And then
this doesn't end well.
I am black.
Did you preface that by saying partially in my genetic makeup? Because that's like me walking in and going, I'm Indian. Okay, but I'm not.
No, I said, I am black. And they're like, is that a joke? You are not black. And I said, my mother is part black and I grew up in a black family and took out the family photo. And
way to make your coworkers feel like complete assholes.
Well, you shouldn't be making those kind of jokes.
Well, maybe you want to like not let it go that far where every day it's happening until it's just.
Well, I couldn't wrap my head around how I should approach it. I could not wrap my head around how to bring it to their awareness that you can't make assumptions that because a shell looks a certain way, that's what it is.
Well, speaking of assumptions, I don't know if this would necessarily be under unconscious bias, but so I had a funny incident the other week where I live obviously in a single family home, so we have neighbors, right? Some neighbors are more normal than others. So I have a very good friend who became, I think I talked about this in one of the previous podcasts, became a very religious preacher. He's a very well-known lawyer and became a preacher. So he sends me his sermons. And a lot of his sermons, you know, me being Jewish, a lot of his sermons, though, are basically trying to recruit Jews to believe in Jesus and stuff like that. So I was listening to one of his sermons because I have to listen to them because he's a good friend and I want to see what he's up to and stuff like that. And he sometimes will ask me sharing stories and stuff like that. So he was yelling about, you know, Jews and he was talking about believing in Jesus. And I'm listening to this loud outside as I'm watering my lawn. A couple of weeks later, I see my neighbor and she goes, so you guys are religious, right? You're Jews? I said, yeah, why? She goes, I don't know. I just heard you listening to this sermon and talking about Jesus and stuff like that. And I always see you wearing your yarmulke and doing like Jewish stuff. And all of a sudden I'm thinking, do I even know these people? What is going on in that house? She thought that I was somehow recruited to the other side. Yeah. And what?
And I can't wait to hear the rest of the story.
I had to clarify when I explained to the story about why I was listening to the sermon, not because that follows my religious beliefs, just because this is a very close friend of mine and I wanted to hear what he's up to. And he said he was sharing stories on it and I wanted to listen to it. But again, you start to, because of your environment and the things you hear, you do formulate, and that goes back to unconscious bias.
There was an unconscious bias.
Right. She immediately made an assumption based on something that I heard. Well, that was my point. That's what I was trying to get to. Yes.
So the thing is, Jonathan, I feel like everyone has some form of unconscious bias because you have unconscious bias in ageism, in gender bias. We have gender bias. We have name bias. We have beauty bias. We have conformity bias, status quo bias. So when you think about it, you may sit here like I did when we first decided on this topic. I sat there thinking, wait, I don't have any biases.
Did I miss that meeting where we were deciding on the topic? Because I'm pretty sure you handed me papers and here's our topic.
But I also said, if you have a better topic, let me know. We'll discuss it.
No, but the way you presented the topic was, this is not open for discussion. This is our topic.
But you're not telling the entire story, and you're not telling it in its true.
Well, there's also one other item that you missed, by the way. You're talking about unconscious bias and naming all those things about gender and everything. Pedophiles.
Right, pedophile.
But do you know there's a new term now for pedophile? We don't use the term pedophile anymore. We use the term minor attracted person.
Yes.
That's the technical term for the word pedophile
I
now.
saw that.
That's the sick world that we live in now.
No. Not only does it have a name, but they're fighting for their rights. This is the part I can't wrap my head around. What rights do you have?
I think people should go back and listen to our podcast number 19 and 18 and 17, where we get into that in a lot more detail about the rights of people that they think they have that they're imposing on everybody else, and in many cases insane. A pedophile belongs simply in jail because they're basically rapists. So for them to demand any sort of rights or to try to change the title to something less offensive, maybe, they don't like the word pedophile, to minor attracted individual, which almost seems like, oh, not a big deal. He's attracted to minors. What's the big deal? That's normal, right? No, it's not.
Well, we're living in a world where everyone believes that whatever their philosophy is, even if it's out there and outrageous, they're entitled to it, so they're fighting for their rights. Like, if you have not seen our previous segments, one of them was genderism infiltrating feminism, which we followed up
Transgenderism.
Which we followed up with, what was last week's topic? Oh my goodness, shame on you.
It was a week ago. I don't remember what I ate for breakfast this morning.
Anyway, this topic tonight is sort of, it's lens to those two previous topics. And that's why I suggested that we do this topic today.
You know what's a really good example of unconscious bias?
What?
Something from your hometown, which I am irate about.
Which is my hometown.
San Francisco.
You were just jealous of
No, I'm not jealous of any city that is now contemplating.
Cancel culture was the segment we did last week.
Right.
Okay?
That was a good one, by the way. I was fantastic on that. I judged the quality of the podcast based on how long
John is fantastic.
It's John, not John.
John is fantastic on them all.
Which is why I earned that hefty raise that you and the studio bent to my demands and agreed to.
I am only here to warm up the chair, so another body is sitting on the set, and Jonathan is not.
Right, first of all, the chair is always warm because the air conditioning doesn't properly work in the studio. But wait, let me say what I was going to say about unconscious bias.
Okay.
San Francisco contemplating.
You notice I was trying to break it up.
Slavery reparations. I want to throw up and vomit when I hear that.
Just don't do it here, please.
I won't, because I don't want to be responsible for cleaning up the studio. I mean, we have a staff for that, but I wouldn't do that to them. The problem that I have with that is it is so outlandish that things that happened in the 1800s that have no connection to the individuals that are alive now, generations ago, that they could possibly believe that there's some sort of entitlement to hard-earned taxpayer money in the form of reparations. And in these wildly crazy, liberal, insane cities, these things actually get entertained. I think actually Gavin Newsom, that very handsome governor with that amazing hair in California, actually as a
Do you have a crush on him? This is the third time
slightly,
you've been on a podcast.
slightly. I just want to hug him. I don't want to do anything further than hugging, but I would like to hug him. Gavin, if you're listening, you know how to contact Jenny. Conversations with Jennylyn.com. You could contact, you send an email, she'll answer anyway. She's pretty good with that. But the fact that there would be a discussion, entertaining discussion about handing over, and they, by the way, their answer is not, when they do these forums about debating it, it's just pay it and do the right thing and stop talking about it and get it done. Like they steamroll right over any discussion or conversation about it. Because if you get into the nitty gritty of the reparation conversation, it's preposterous.
Well, Jonathan, I believe everything we do, every time I'm in your company, it's like you go digging through the archives or whatever information you could get your hands on to come and nail me for something San Francisco is doing.
Absolutely. That's I live for that.
You have some real San Francisco envy, and I don't get it because this television show is going to be playing in San Francisco.
Secretly, I wish I was from San Francisco.
And guess what? I'll be happy to tell them where they could find you.
Where?
Don't worry. I know where they could find you.
No, I don't want anybody to be able to find me. If you listen to our 20 past podcasts, there are way too many things that are said on there that I don't want anybody to find me. I don't even want to use my last name. I'm terrified that people will come after me.
Well, now they can see your face. Have you heard of AI? They'll find you.
This is how I'm doing the rest of it.
Anyway, the workplace. I feel like one of the places that unconscious bias has the most negative impact is in the workplace. Do you know why?
Why?
Because I feel it affects morale. It affects camaraderie.
Morale?
Yeah.
Oh, they said the morals. I misunderstood.
You always misunderstand.
It's your accent. It's
Yeah.
a little tricky for me. I'm still getting a handle on it. It's unique. Look, your accent is very unique. I've never heard anybody that had an accent like yours. Never. And I've come across at least like 10 different people in my life.
Yes, Jonathan, as I was saying.
Seems like I'm getting
These
fired with this
workers
episode.
may feel alienated and they may not share their ideas, in which case it would adversely affect the company. And personally, having owned a business with someone not so long ago, one of the things I've realized also from my work history and experience, one of the things I notice is companies hire people, but then they don't strategically place them
Yeah,
to where they could get the best out of them.
that is true.
So you hire someone, you look at their resume, and it's an amazing resume, and they've done so much, and you bring them on board, but they're doing something that is really not benefiting your business because
Because they're not utilizing their abilities for the
Right.
best. Right.
right. And then on top of that, you throw unconscious bias in there, and you could have like a very talented person who could be your top producer, but because of unconscious bias, they're shy and they're already feeling the bias. And so they just become secluded and they go to work and don't interact, so you don't really know their true value.
Well, actually, I think one of the main culprits of that is gender, male and female, because I think there are certain assumptions that are made. Oh my God. I look really
Jonathan,
fat.
you can't keep pulling your stomach in all night. Don't get
No, they say the camera adds 10 pounds, but I didn't realize it would all be in the midsection. I thought it'd be spread out a little bit.
Look.
I just got a glimpse of my.
Can
I
I
am.
give something? Please breathe naturally and stop trying to pull your stomach in, because if you
Loosen the stomach a little bit.
I am not doing CPR on you. That's the last thing I would
It's just
ever do.
compressions. They don't do mouth to mouth anymore. Just compressions.
Okay.
Okay, it used to be 20 and 10, 20 and 20 compressions, 2 breaths. Now I think it's just compressions. They don't do the rest of it.
I was saying it's okay. Nobody can see them.
Such a mess. So what I was saying before I was fat shamed was that a lot of the unconscious bias is gender related, male and female, because I think, especially if you're dealing with a male boss, I think there's certain assumptions that are made when a female walks through the door. the resume may look whatever, but the boss may still be thinking unconsciously to himself, still a woman. And there's certain jobs that are relegated towards women, and there's certain jobs that are relegated towards men. And let me finish. Or like, for example, a receptionist job. Well, maybe the boss wants, someone, a pretty woman. So the first interaction with someone that walks into that office is a good experience. There's an attractive woman at the desk. Or relegating a female more to a secretarial or administrative role as opposed to more of a position of power. Again, these are gender obstacles or barricades that have historically always been there that now they really don't apply, because you have women in positions of power just equally as men, and you have men in positions of subordination to women in the workplace. So I think a lot of those things have gone out the window, but it does take, I think, a certain number of generations for these things to change. You can't just overnight change people's thought process. It takes time.
I agree. And I believe if you have unconscious bias in a workplace and the bias is with the boss, then there will be a lot of inequality.
Of course.
And I've seen it in some workplaces not so long ago.
Well, inequality in the workplace is caused by that unconscious bias. They're connected together.
By many different things, but mostly unconscious bias. Well, maybe not even unconscious bias.
And well, also,
because people could be biased against the person and they're aware of it. It's not unconscious.
But the topic is unconscious bias, so we're trying to keep it to the things that are unconscious.
When did you ever keep anything on topic, Jonathan?
I can go off. I was told in part of the contract negotiations that I have to remain very tight to the topic, because I tend, if you listen to our previous podcast, you'll see that I tend to go off topic a lot, which I think is entertaining. But now I feel like I'm being placed in a straitjacket, and I have too many people breathing over my shoulder, and my livelihood is at stake. So I'm going to just be a little bit more muted. Is that okay with you? That's what you wanted, so that's what you're getting.
Last week, your unconscious bias came out on the last podcast.
In what regard?
You were talking about wearing your pants falling off of your backside like a black person.
No.
And Jonathan, I have to bring that up.
I don't really do that. I was making an observation about people that do. But it was an unconscious bias because I was saying that if you're going to commit a criminal act, why would you do that? Because you have to be able to run from the police. And most of the people that do that tend to be minorities. So I was making an unconscious bias about minorities. You're right. Is that what you're going to say? No, it's not, but I'll give you credit for it.
No, I'm just crazy. I just pulled a feather out of the hat. Willy-nilly. Jonathan.
How do you spell feather? Because I don't believe there's a D in there.
A-T-H-E.
Oh, that's feather. You said feather. That implies there's a D in there. The D isn't David.
Is this like tit for tat? Because I pointed out your
well, I can't do the tit for tat. I can only do the tat.
Your racial unconscious bias. You're trying to find something to nail me for. Literally. Jonathan, you should know I don't miss a beat. But anyway, back to your unconscious bias or conscious bias last week, where you referenced black men who wear their pants and you tried it and it fell to your ankles.
I said, and trashy white people also, not just the black people.
Okay.
I included white people in that, but the trashy lower end ones, the white people that try to be like the black people.
Which brings me to another topic.
Why do you have to wave the finger at me?
I'm sorry, it's habit.
It's intimidating. You change nationalities and you change ethnicities like I change underwear, like once a week.
So I'm Italian because I speak with my hands a lot. But you always have this way of breaking my concentration and making me lose my point that I want to make. Is it deliberate?
No, it's unconscious. It's an unconscious bias. Where I just want to feel like I'm doing a much better job than you. So if I throw you off your game, it confuses you. It's like a smoke screen. It's like I blow smoke in your face, and then all of a sudden you're like, and you can't see anything.
Can I set you straight?
Sure.
You could never throw me off. So just keep that in your pipe and keep puffing it until the show's over.
You can take all the shots of me you want. As long as my new contract was signed and done, I don't care. I'll be your punching bag. It's fine. As I collect millions. It's fine.
I respect your opinion when you call it shots. It just happens to be me laying out the facts for you to consider. Anyway, let's carry on with the show.
Yeah, so we're talking about gender unconscious bias, religious unconscious bias. How about that?
Yes. That's very, very popular. And I would like to say, I know a lot of people who's guilty of that.
Like you, for example.
Let me tell you a story. When I was in San Francisco, one time I got off a plane and a Fox reporter was in the airport interviewing passengers, and he came up to me and asked me if he could interview me. And I said, I would happily oblige.
Even though it was Fox?
As long as you return the favor and let me interview you on my show. And he goes, oh, you have a show. What's your show all about? Long and short of the story, he invited me to dinner. We went to dinner.
Of course.
And during the dinner, I said something about my religious beliefs, and it got ugly. He thought that I was a very intelligent woman, and the fact that I believed in God. Yeah, he worked for Fox.
He was annoyed that you believed in God?
Yeah, he couldn't believe it. And he got so upset. He almost got up and left me at the table. I thought he wouldn't even let me.
You would think that someone that doesn't believe in God as a reporter would actually work for MSNBC or CNN, not Fox.
He worked for Fox. And
I don't know. Do you have verification of this story?
If you go to my website, I did interview him because I'm so irresistible. He ended up contacting me.
Did you say you're so irresistible? Is that what you think?
I have to throw that in there because Jonathan accuses me of being egotistical
and boisterous.
I am and boisterous. I have to live up to it. But anyway.
No, not boisterous. That's not the right word.
He didn't only reach out to me.
Arrogant. No, arrogant. What did I say? Arrogant and
just bring them all out. Egotistical.
Not boisterous. It's boasting. A boaster. You're a boaster.
Boastful. I'll take them all, Jonathan. Just by
you have earned them. You earned them.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
And we need to bring a cup so I could put all my lovely little tokens you give me. And by the time the show is over, we'll have a basket on the side here. Because you're so good at complimenting me. But anyway, I did eventually reach out to him. Not only did he come on my show, but when he retired from Fox, he invited me to his farewell party. And I was rubbing noses with the likes of all the Fox
Rupert Murdoch
staff in San Francisco. So you see, you just have to stand up for what you believe in.
I'm sorry, but I was rubbing noses the other week with a Fox reporter also as I was interviewed in Atlantic City, New Jersey on the boardwalk. That's not what happened. No, that's not what happened. Why do you have to belittle me? You see, you always have to show that you have a level of superiority over me.
No, John, the thing is, you have to call facts as they are. You have to call things as they are. You can't fluff them up and try to make.
Why can't I be delusional and live in my delusional world? Thank you. Yes, I was. Thank you. So you're a Fox story and I have a Fox story. So there you go.
I have a chicken story.
I had chicken for dinner the other night. So I guess I have a chicken story too.
That's chicken as a meal. That's not chicken as a story.
Why do you wave your finger in my face?
So guys, we're doing 2 segments, and so tonight we're gonna wrap this first one because it's going on television and it has to be 29 minutes. So thank you for watching, and we will be back
for part 2. This conversation is going to continue very quickly.
You were listening to HoW. Can you say that? The podcast where we are raw and authentic. But we thank you so much for listening, and we will see you soon with the next episode. Good night.
Good night.